Hi everybody, welcome to the Blue Room. This afternoon we've got Wendy and Milton from Canada who will be joining us. More about that very shortly. I'd like to thank the sponsors of the Blue Room and Sourworking, Integrum PMS, Quality in Tourism, Safe, Clean and Legal, and Service Department Awards. We will bring onto the stage, first of all, let me just remove this, bear with me. Hi, it's me. We'll bring onto the stage, first of all, Rush from Integrum, one of our very valued sponsors, who will tell you a little bit about Integrum and AvQuest.
Hello, everybody. My name is Raj Randhawa. I'm the CEO of AvQuest. We provide world-class payment processing systems, as well as anti-fraud and analytics solutions for the hospitality industry. Our solutions actually plug into many PMSs, Opera, ProTal, Nightsoft, etc. And in addition to that work, we also provide an Integrum PMS package for those people who are looking for new PMS solutions. From a company perspective, we're based in London, but we do have a presence in other countries. And anyone who's interested in automated solutions, we're more than happy to work with them, and we do provide very good solutions. The Blue Room is a great place for hearing some really good discussions, and I'm sure today's one will be fantastic. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much indeed, Raj. Thank you. We'll bring George onto the screen. And so George from International Hospitality Media, otherwise, so you may know him in this particular sector for Service Department News, Service Department Awards, but I won't steal your thunder, George. I'll let you tell the audience a little bit more.
Thanks, Richard, and good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name's George Sell. I'm Editor-in-Chief at International Hospitality Media. We are a publisher of online B2B websites for various areas of the hospitality industry. That includes service departments, boutique hotels, and short-term rentals. We're also an event organizer. We put on conferences and awards. We're based in London, but we do awards. We do events internationally. We've done them in places as diverse as New York, Bangkok, and Dubai, mostly themed around the service department and extended stay industries. As an events-based industry in the hospitality sector, we've had a challenging 18 months, as you can imagine, and we've had to adapt what we do and pivot quite a bit. So we've been doing lots of webinars, which have been great. We've done a lot ourselves, and we've also been appearing on other people's, including your own, Richard, and they've been good fun and a good learning experience. It feels like things are really starting to change now, and we have got a couple of live events coming up in the near future, which we're very excited about. Webinars are great, but they have their limitations. So the first of these events is on September the 16th, and that's the Service Department Awards. They usually take place in the spring, but we've had to postpone it. But it's at the Chelsea Harbour Hotel in London, and we're really looking forward to seeing 300 or so of our industry colleagues celebrating all the best that the industry has to offer, maybe a glass of champagne or two. Yeah, we think that the sector is picking up well. I think the last time we were all together celebrating in a room in any number was at the awards last year, and this will be the first big event as the industry takes off again. And just one other quick one, we are launching a new event in London at Tobacco Dock called the Urban Living Festival, and that focuses on how various hospitality and real estate asset classes are converging and how the lines are blurring. So as well as service departments and hotels, that will also look at things like co-living, co-working, senior living, build to rent, and so on. You can find more info on all of that at our website, internationalhospitalitymedia.com. And looking forward to the discussion this afternoon. Thanks very much, Richard.
Thanks, George. Thank you very much indeed. Before we go any further, I'd like to mention quality in tourism, safe, clean and legal. So they couldn't join us this afternoon, but thank you very much to Quality in Tourism. And those of you who are not familiar, they run the Safe, Clean and Legal accreditation program in the service to accommodation. Right. So this afternoon we will be joined by, I'm trying to add it onto the screen here. Oh, I won't bother. There we go. We're joined by Wendy, Galati and Bogoch, the co-founding partner of LivinLocal Furnished Accommodations, and Milton Bogoch, the owner of Executive Suites by Roseman. So if we get Wendy and Milton onto the stage, it's not very technical here, you know, and we'll get rid of that. Welcome, welcome to Wendy, and welcome Milton. Thank you very much for being so brave on such a relatively low-tech production as this. I don't know whether I understand that there were some breaks in the earlier on. Hopefully, we're running okay now, but I can only cross my fingers. But Wendy, Milton, welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, please, starting with Wendy, you know, your business, etc.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having us, Richard. My name is Wendy Galati. I'm the co-founder of LivinLocal Furnished Accommodations here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. We are a regional provider, and I'm delighted to be on the show today with my good friend Milton.
Thanks, Wendy. Milton,
okay. Thank you. I'm the owner and manager of Executive Suites by Roseman in Winnipeg, Canada. Winnipeg is in Manitoba. People call that flyover country, but it's an amazing and wonderful place with fabulous people and a hugely wonderful environment. I've been in the business for a few years, and I'm very glad to be here, Richard. Thank you, and especially with Wendy.
Thanks, Milton. Right, let's add onto the stream some of the people who are joining us this afternoon. So we had, I think, 120 registered to view. I'd like to thank everybody that registered who's watching, and I'd like to thank everybody who watches this in the as a recording. So now, good afternoon from user Anand from Cloud Apartments. Hello, everyone. Hi, Anand. Thank you. Mike Stapley. Welcome. Michelle Dan. Hi, everyone from DC. Carl Lantin. Good day, everyone from Montreal, Canada. So maybe one of you two knows Carl. Let's have a look. Loud and clear. Okay, well, that's good. So thank you. I'd like to encourage all LinkedIn viewers to use the emojis, you know, the celebrate, clapping hands, and what have you as we go through. And by the way, please, the people that have mentioned so far, please put your company name in the chat as well. Jackie Rowan there. Hello from Houston. Jackie from Court. Hi, Jackie. Where do we start, really? I know that in preparation for this particular broadcast, I was worried. And for those of you who remember the punk band the Sex Pistols and their interview with a gentleman called Bill Grundy, where it kind of collapsed into anarchy. I'm wondering, I'm not too sure with these two whether I can trust them. But anyway, let's kick off. So the series is behind the business, and the objective of the exercise is really just to look at business owners, and you're very you're very generous to offer to share some of those some of the background to your business and what as we go through this broadcast. So thank you then to inspire other people who are watching, and and give perhaps some advice, some ideas. So could we please just recap briefly what part of Canada in which part of Canada are you based? So Wendy and Milton, and not knowing Canada, are you on the other side of the country from each other?
We're
Wendy first.
So yeah, I'm as far west as you can get, and you guys keep talking about what a great evening and afternoon it is. It's 9 a.m. So although I can appreciate your mystery mug there, Richard, I am going to stick with a little water today. That's why those Saba wine times pretty much took out one of my kidneys. So I'm as far west as you can get. Where the ocean meets the mountains. We live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. So a little ways away from Milton. Milton, are you in Winnipeg, or are you still in Calgary, love?
I live in Calgary. I work in Winnipeg. No problem. They're about 1,300 kilometers apart.
But that's a reverse commute, right?
I'm not sure what that means. I go to Winnipeg on business and I come home. If that's an insinuation of something, I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that's the true for everybody going to Winnipeg, isn't it?
Oh, come on. I used to reach into my pocket and pull out a $20 bill and pretend to give it to all those who insult Winnipeg, to thank them for staying out of my way and to let me make a living unmolested in Winnipeg. It's a wonderful place. There's lots of good business there, and amazingly good people, and lots to do. And there is, just because it gets to be minus 40 in the winter, that is no reason to be upset with Winnipeg. And just because there are insects the size of dive bombers in the summer, no reason to be upset.
Well, clearly they've inherited another great person there in Winnipeg, Milton.
Thank you very much.
Are you actually both from the places in which you're currently based? So are you from Vancouver and Winnipeg?
I'm from Vancouver.
Yeah.
And you're from Winnipeg then, Wendy? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually from Vancouver Island, in a small town called Nanaimo, where the population never changes. One girl gets pregnant, two guys move. So I relocated to Vancouver in the late 80s when I was a mere child, and I've enjoyed living here ever since.
Okay.
Wendy hasn't mentioned that the moment she hit the scene, she was a star. Every time I go to a conference, and may they happen again, Wendy is surrounded by people who love her and adore her and learn from her. And I'm in that fan base too.
Well, that's very kind. I always thought it was the expense account.
I did like those gigantic martinis you bought for me. Thank you.
You devils. Talking whilst we're on the drink, actually, food and drink, Wendy, to give the viewers a little bit of insight into what you like. Food, drink, and sport. What's your favourite meal, drink, and sport? Wendy, and then Milton.
Oh, that'd be a tough one. I'm like a bit of a foodie, and I'm fortunate enough to live in a place, like a lot of people on the call, which has a lot of great restaurants. Vancouver is certainly known for its food scene. For me, I would have to say seafood, just because we live in a great place for that. I would never say no to an Empress and Fever Tree tonic with a slab of grapefruit. I think it's a bit of a breakfast drink. And as far as sports, I think that's what I would say corporate housing is really, the game I like to play the most.
Fair enough.
That's so
Okay.
sad. That is so sad. Wendy. Okay, here I've got a much better answer. I'm from Alberta. This is cattle country. A big slab of beef ribs. Oh my gosh, we just recently completed one here. Sport, food, what? Drink? Yes. Sport. Sport. It's a hard, choose between your children. Hockey. That's ice hockey to all you Euros, and Canadian football, 3-down football. If you can't move the ball 10 yards in 3 downs, then give it to somebody who can.
Wow, I've just learned something. I didn't. Are you serious? So Canadian football, that's a thing, is it?
I'm not sure if I could leap through the screen and grab you by the elbows, we'll say, and say, yes, Canadian football is serious. It's so wonderful. The fans go to our various games dressed in their team stuff like everybody else does. And we have an annual festival called the Grey Cup, which is merely an excuse for the second thing on the list called drink. And we have the most wonderful time watching our teams beat the whooping out of each other. Yes. It's a wonderful. And I'm sorry, I know there are Americans listening. I'm so sorry to have to tell you that we move the ball in 3 downs or we give it to the other guy. Because if you can't move the ball, if you have 3 chances to move a ball 10 yards, come on, okay? Americans, 4 chances.
They do have bigger balls. We have longer fields.
Oh. Right. Okay, fair enough. Right. I know that's interesting though. I really wasn't aware of that. So I need to look this up. I'm learning a lot about American football right now, courtesy of Jamie from Murphy's Corporate Housing Associates. And I'm a big Steelers fan right now. But let's say hi to some of the people that have joined us, and we'll run through them all. Jack from Striker. Hi, Jack. I do urge everyone, please put the company names in there. But Jack, hi, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Sarah from Week to Week Service Departments in Newcastle. Hi, Sarah, and thanks for sparing some time there. There's the LinkedIn user. LinkedIn user. Sometimes no, it's not. Sometimes it just happens that way. It could. I'll take a guess. Nina Taylor from the Sweet Faith. That's often somehow it doesn't work sometimes. And Anne from Cloud Apartments. Cloud Apartments are based in Canary Wharf. I'm just pushing my phone away there. Thought I'd muted it.
Oh, I didn't know.
Mike Stapley, Sheffield Service Department consultant. Mike, put your company name. Laputa from memory, but put your name in the chat there. Michelle Dan from Sojourn. Hi Michelle. Running through some of them. Carl again, Montreal. From Montreal. Can you hear my mobile phone now? I'm going to call the person that's trying to phone me. Jackie from Court. Hi, Jackie. Javier, Level Hotels and Furnished Suites. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in, everyone. So we talked about the food, the drink, and what have you. How long have you been in the sector? It's like from one extreme to the other, as not the sector as such, but your businesses and the founding, and it's very interesting. So, Milton, if I may ask you to start, please. When did you start your company?
I started it 20 years ago. The company as it is now, and I started it because I came from the residential rental business, And I always thought we could do a better job. I really wasn't satisfied by either the rental relationship, the legal relationship, and the standard of service. And a good friend of mine, David Gervey from Winnipeg, who incidentally can lift 400 pounds. That's material. Deadlift 400 pounds. That's material. Anyway, David Gervey suggested this business to me 20 years ago, and the more I looked at it, the more I loved it, and the more I'm in it, the more I love it. So that's how we got in.
Okay, thanks, Milton. Thank you. And Wendy, so you're well. I'll leave you to describe.
Yeah, so I've been in the sector for just about 16, almost 17 years. I started when I was 12, and it's just been a really hard COVID. So we started LivinLocal. My business partner Michael Stern and I started just about 2 years ago. So 3.5, 4 months before the pandemic, and there's certainly nothing like opening a corporate housing or accommodation or a hospitality company, in a pandemic. But I think we'll get to that a little bit later. So we just celebrated our 2-year birthday. Well, we didn't really celebrate. We had a 2-year birthday in June. So we're looking forward to next week doing a little bit of a celebratory get together with our teams to show some appreciation. So yeah, it's been a really like a toilet seat, really up and down for quite a bit of time here.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. I do have a story about toilet seats, but I won't. Yeah. Yesterday I had to fit one. So yeah, no, thank you, Wendy. Could I ask you? And you may have touched on that earlier on, Milton. But did you have an inspiration, or did you have somebody in particular that inspired you or caused you to enter the sector?
Well, there's two inspirations. There was the inspiration to move out of residential rental, which was just becoming awful. A kind of legislative circus, and it became more and more difficult to provide the kind of service I wanted to provide. And my friend David Gervey was in the sector. He's a CA, smart guy, and told me about it. And then a wonderful thing happened. Wendy Galati's partner, Michael Stern, invited me to join the Corporate Housing Providers Association, CHPA. And I did. And that exposed me to, I think, a level of service provider that I wanted to be. Some really very fine people. And because of that, I'm going to say that's how I met Wendy. I think I met Wendy at a conference. It's just funny. Okay, every time you meet Wendy, there's a lot of laughing, and sometimes alcohol is involved. She is actually one of my inspirations, and one of the reasons is, and Wendy, turn off your ears. Wendy shares, I believe in sharing, and Wendy shares good ideas. She wants us, we're a niche in the hospitality industry. She wants us all to succeed. And I believe in that kind of thinking. So Wendy has given me some very good ideas. She's certainly one of my heroes, somebody I follow. And Michael Stern, her partner, was an early, I'm going to say an early example of the type of person that I wanted to be when I grew up. So that's how I advanced. I advanced by listening to really good people. So it's been a good 20 years.
Oh, good. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Milton. And yeah, that's interesting. Very, very kind of you. Wendy, you're going to have to return that, of course, now, aren't you? But your inspiration.
I got nothing really. Wow, the check's in the mail, Milton. Thank you. That honestly, that's very kind. Thank you. I'm humbled by your comments, and I don't get very humble very often. So inspirations. I think that for me, you know, I mean, there's a lot of easy answers. I've been really fortunate to surround myself with greatness. I've been exposed to so many great people, both coming from the hospitality sector, first in food and beverage, then through the hotel. And I used to joke when I first started in corporate housing, when people say, "What did you do?" I used to say, "I make jam," because there's so much low-hanging fruit. I mean, it was just ridiculous. I mean, you know, comparing what we offer as a product to, you know, a room with 4 walls and a bathroom and a questionable duvet cover. I think that, you know, for me, I'm fortunate I have a very, very dedicated personal board of directors, some of which are on this call today, and I won't call you out, but you know who you are. I think that what really inspires me the most is people that are passionate and have conviction about what they like to do. And in this business, it's hard. It's a hard business. I'm inspired every single solitary day by the team I have here at LivinLocal. You know, I've been super blessed to have a partner like Michael Stern, as Milton said. He's much older than me, so I get to look up to him. And he's gonna still kill me for saying that, but it's true. And I think that, you know, I think inspiration comes to us in different ways. And I think that what's really important these days is that we find those things that inspire us, and that we stay passionate about what we are doing and the service that we deliver. And for me, like I said, I've been very, very fortunate to be surrounded by many, you know, different mentors through the course of my career. And, you know, and I find myself very blessed.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks. I've always considered the service department sector in Canada to be a very strong, a very mature sector. So established, well known. When I first came into the sector around '97, some of the companies with which I had contact were Canadian, were from Canada. It seemed that there was a profile that kind of, if I may say, disproportionate to other aspects of hospitality. It seemed that serviced accommodation, service departments were big in Canada. I mean, would anybody like to comment on that? I mean, is it well known as a product to leisure contractors, corporates? And we'll go on to that in a minute, actually. But yeah, it's a well-known sector.
I want to try. Wendy, before you take over, I want to try.
So much for the nice speak, huh? Nothing great, you know.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to answer that by saying, I wish it were so. So many of my prospective clients haven't a clue that we as a sector exist. Certainly no clue that I exist as a company, but that we as a sector exist. So there may be maturity somewhere, but I don't see it.
Ah, interesting.
So
Okay, Wendy.
So to add on to that, I think that in Canada, you know, we've almost been like a secret society. We got a huge land mass, but with very little population. So what's interesting about our industry here is that for a lot of us, we've existed sort of under the radar, and it wasn't until other, you know, he who should not be named in terms of a large presence. As far as furnished accommodations is concerned, we spent a lot of time. I was very fortunate. I worked with one of the pioneers when I started with my career in corporate housing. I worked with a woman who was one of the founders of corporate housing in Canada. And so it was interesting to hear her speak on this because, you know, she spent an inordinate amount of time talking about what we weren't. And because we have such low population, really, in comparison to a lot of other continents, we find ourselves short of things like hotel rooms, just general accommodation. So this alternative accommodation space, I think, is gaining more momentum. I think that we're very used to being up front and out there and saying, here's what we do. And we're from Canada. And I think Canada has become quite a destination location for corporate relocation and different industry. So, even to our counterparts to the South, they're always like, hey, how many units do you have? Where is that? Do you have something in Timbuktu? And it's so, I think that we are gaining momentum here. I think there have been some key operators. What I think is really interesting about our sector is we're seeing more and more folks emerging into the sector. And so, like I said, the secret society is coming a little bit more well known, but I agree with Milton. I don't feel that it is mature per se. I think that, in our various municipalities across Canada, they're still trying to figure out who we are and what we are. And in terms of, how does that impact? Are we short-term stay? What does that look like? So there's a whole bunch of, even though we've been around for a long time, it's like we've just emerged as an industry. Would you agree, Milton, with that?
Yes, the legislative side, the municipalities and provinces that are largely our legislators don't get the difference between an extended stay facility and a couple of short-term stay bedrooms in somebody's house. They just don't get the difference. But that's only one of the issues. The biggest issue of all is the person who doesn't know about us and goes and stays in a hotel for 3 or 4 weeks or a month or 2 months when they could be happily in our, fully furnished, larger suites with a proper kitchen and with the kind of facilities that's home instead of a hotel situation. So we have lots and lots of work to do to establish ourselves as a legitimate possibility for people who are seeking extended stays.
Yeah. Do you think you're both members of CHIPA, so CHPA, and you, Wendy, you'll have to remind me of the actual title, but so CHPA, do you see that as an organisation, an association that will drive things forward then in that respect and raise the profile perhaps? So
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna piggyback on what Milton said earlier. I'm a Kool-Aid drinking believer in CHPA, 100%. In my former tenure, it definitely changed the landscape for us. And I think the purpose of CHPA is shifting somewhat. And Marianne's not on the call, so I can't check to see if I'm going to get this right. But I would say that as a provider, being a member of CHPA is fundamental. I mean, you have access to global partners, you have access to a network of people from a knowledge-based standpoint, from a networking perspective that you would never have as a small regional provider. The span and the exposure that you get from some of these world-class operators who, in my opinion, are always happy to put themselves out there, to take a few minutes, to have a conversation. CHPA is an amazing association for to be one-on-one with your fellow foot soldiers, so to speak. I think that some of the purpose of CHPA is shifting in terms of an awareness, because as a provider, I would have said 100% CHPA, that's where my clients go. I get to go to a conference, I get to get on a webinar, I get to learn all of this information and see the world through their lenses so that I can in turn deliver what it is that their clients are looking for and on a global basis, because you're not going to get an Amazon or a Microsoft come knocking on your door and saying, hi, Wendy, do you have a couple of rooms, right? It's just such a bigger scale. And so, and going through that process and being vetted and being a trusted provider to those folks has made us a better company, has made me a better operator. I think that the shift is inside of awareness. And I think the challenge that we're having is, and it's not just in Vancouver, it's globally, is a shortage. There's a shortage of inventory. There is all of these different kinds of things. So then you are not only dealing with the client demand that's coming in saying, do you have more apartments? I need 20, I need 30, I need whatever. But you're also dealing in your individual markets with people who are students, who are not necessarily coming through a relocation process, but they're coming in and they're looking for apartments on Kijiji, Craigslist, and so on and so forth, that are also experiencing that huge shortage of availability, which then in turn puts pressure on us because it looks like we're providing some sort of temporary solution and taking that inventory out from people who live here. So it's been a really interesting shift. CHPA has been very valuable in terms of rallying or herding all of us cats together so that we can align with our purpose in terms of what we need to do as an industry to stay relevant and current. My position with them currently is the Canadian Managing Director for us Canadians, and you know, I got that by appointment. No one else wanted the job, I think, but you know, it was COVID. The phone wasn't ringing. I figured, what the heck? So I'm very, very honored to represent the Canadian contingency in that regard.
And as far as that's well said. And as far as the Kool-Aid goes, I'm a full believer. I have completely drunk the Kool-Aid. I learned so much from my CHPA conference contacts. I just can't even begin. It was like a fire, you know, the fire hose coming down into your mouth of information, of good relationships, of contacts. And I'd like to say something nice about the people in the industry. Is this the right time? It's always the right time. You have to have a certain personality and a certain character to survive in this business. The personality you need is a caring personality. If you can't care about not just your guests, but the people who are serving the guests, if you can't care about them, you don't belong in the business and you won't last. And the character that you need is the character that we discussed yesterday, Richard, that of course you'll go in the midst of all your highfalutin stuff, you'll go and change a toilet seat. Of course you will, because that's what you got to do, because that's customer service, and that's what keeps you in business. So, you know, character is digging in and gutting it out and doing whatever you got to do. And the personality, I love being in this business because I see that it brings out the very best in people or attracts the very best people.
Thank you, Milton. Yeah, no, I applaud everything you say there, and Wendy likewise with regards to CHPA and what have you. I'll read some more of the comments. We'll add some more of the comments that are coming in from the audience. Then we'll run sponsorship, advertisement, and then we'll get back to talk a little bit perhaps about whether there are unique aspects of the sector in Canada and what have you. So let's have a look. So Raj, one of the sponsors, has hello everybody, Raj from AV Quest. Veronica Brooms, hi everyone. Veronica from Sheffield, that's Excel City Apartments. Michelle, adding the web address there as we requested, Sojourn Solutions. Now then, I'm going to have a problem. Felicia Osorio, hello from the Reside team in Seattle. Excellent. Hi, Felicia. Veronica joined earlier on the wrong LinkedIn link. Pleased to have found the right one. Pleased you did, Veronica. That's now then, I don't know what this one was, but Carl, ouch, Wendy. I'm not sure which. There's some kind of secret communications going on here. So Jackie from Court. I lived in Calgary for 2 years and missed the mountains. So you were based in Calgary once upon a time, weren't you? I think, Milton.
Well, I started with a business in Winnipeg, expanded to Calgary. There are some issues, or there were some issues in Alberta, and I just decided I didn't need those issues, so I closed my business in Alberta and focused it on Manitoba, on Winnipeg.
Yeah, sounds like
That's
my
the
assessment
polite
of
way
you.
of putting it. I'm being
So
polite.
yeah, exactly. Sounds like you're on the run.
It was catastrophe. Alberta was a desert and a catastrophe for a while. Thank God it's coming back.
Okay. Sarah from Week to Week. Hi everyone. I love Wendy. She's amazing and so funny. Yeah, we've experienced some of that on Saba with your luminous COVID masks and what have you. I never did order one of those, although I did intend to. Kat from Hotel Res. So if you want to get on a GDS to channel into the travel management companies, then contact Kat. Love that. Chosen Sport Corporate Housing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've seen pics of the great and the players running through the snow.
It's not usual, but it does happen, and it's a great Canadian experience to be in the stands with the snow falling on you and the players slipping all around. I know we're not here to talk sports, but if you want to talk about grit and guts, that sport is one of the great ones.
You're selling it well. Bianca, good afternoon from Berlin. Now then, Josiani Gonçalves. Hello from Macai in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Josiani, thanks very much for joining us. Put in the chat the companies that you're at, please, and then that'd be great. We'd love to know where you're all tuning in from. Michelle. So Kat, hi everyone, greetings from Hotel Res, Hotel and Resorts London, just down the road from Richard. Yeah, I'm indeed. And Mike there, we did mention earlier, yes, Laputa Management Consulting in Buckinghamshire, whilst being a proud Sheffield lad. Exactly, because I studied in Sheffield, so we over a beer, we often share stories about Sheffield, myself and Mike. Jackie, who said Canadians weren't funny. Love Wendy's humour. Jackie, you should come on to Saba. You'll know it well by then. Yatsek from Silver Service Departments in Southampton. Hi Richard, hi Wendy, hi Milton from Southampton, UK. Hi Yatsek. Sarah. And you can't write a comment there about you caring, Milton, and you can't teach caring, especially in a small team like ours. It's personality and those who have the same values as we do, who will be a great asset. Indeed, yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Rebecca, hi everyone. Greetings from Ottawa. My Reload Solutions there in Ottawa. Now then. We'll come back onto that one, Mike. My Real Solutions, okay. And Asiani DOF Brazil. Is that the company name? Maybe. I'll have to Google that later. Thanks, Josiani. And then Mike, now then. Is a massive number of unprofessional operators coming into the market on the back of the massive Airbnb PR with a view to making a quick buck, muddying the water in Canada, as here in the UK, and are they not confusing what the product actually is for the client, big corporates aside? Should we make that before we do the sponsor ad? Let's go into that one. Yeah. Okay, Wendy.
Can I jump in on that? So we have a lot of barriers to entry here in Canada that, as I understand it, are not prevalent in places like the UK or even in the US of A. So we are just we're just starting to see where we have apartment communities. We don't have that, where you can go and get furniture rental, which we also don't have. So the idea of unprofessional operators or getting into this business here is not as simple as going out and renting some furniture, renting an apartment, and putting that in play. There's a much bigger capital investment that is involved. So I would suggest that the unprofessional operators are really in those spaces that, where they're allowed to operate. I don't feel, and Milton, feel free to jump in here. I feel that there is we're distinguished between a vacation rental and a corporate or serviced apartment. I feel that gap is getting bigger all the time. And I feel that if you're looking for, you're going to get what you pay for in our markets, in terms of, safety, insurance, the type of furnishings and all of that kind of stuff. The post-COVID, if we're in post-COVID, I don't know that that's true either. But currently, I would say that the challenges that you have to get in pre-COVID are they've only been accelerated by the lack of our ability to get soft furnishings, apartments. We're in a condominiumized environment, so for the most part, unless you're like Milton or my business partner Mike, where you own the building, to go, you're fighting for every piece of real estate, one unit at a time with one owner. These things act as a very big barrier to entry, in my opinion, for those who just want to kind of throw up a website and stick some furniture in an apartment and then try and call themselves a serviced apartment. I feel that we don't have that happening here as much.
Agreed, and I think there's less of it. The people who don't have their heart and soul and their money directed to the business full-time, flat out, are quickly discouraged. And even some borderline, I'm thinking of a couple of people I know, nobody that you know, of course, but some borderline people, borderline businesses, were just massacred during COVID, and they didn't think it was worth it. And I get it. I'm in because I'm all in. Wendy, I know, is absolutely all in. Richard, I know you are. So the work and commitment that it takes to be in the business quickly eliminates, at least in Canada, quickly eliminates the marginal operators. There will always be a few people who have a furnished home or a furnished apartment that they're leaving for a while, and they decide that they're going to be in the executive suite business, but it's not the same, and it's quickly recognized that it's not the same, and some people will choose that environment, and others want a professional environment. So I think the distinctions are clear.
Sorry, and just to add to that, I think also, when we talk about CHPA, we talk about the various industry associations. Those are, I think people are smarter. I think people are getting smarter and smarter in terms of their choice, in terms of safety, in terms of duty of care. So they're going to be looking for those, even the vetting process that we're seeing from our global partners and those people that we choose to partner with, abroad. They're asking better questions. They're asking for more materials. I think that these are really important. And even as we see a trending of corporate coming direct, because that's certainly something that we're seeing here, they're asking a lot more detail and a lot more evidence, if you will, of the legitimacy of your business. And I think that that's where those associations and how, who and that relationship and that partnering piece really come back tenfold in terms of legitimacy of operator. People have always been looking for a safe, clean place to stay. That's been a primary driver since since day one. And I think that has always been something that true operators inside of service departments and corporate housing have had to provide. You're not staying for 3 days or 4 days or a week. You're in those apartments, you're living in them, you're cooking in them, you're having life experiences, you're, hopefully not crying, laughing, and living inside of these spaces that we curate. And I think that we've always been under more scrutiny than other accommodations, accommodation sectors. This has allowed us to really come out of this, go into this ahead of the game and come out of this at a different level. So Canada in particular is a very small community of operators. There's a handful of providers. We all know each other. There's not a lot of, underhanded, meet you in the P2 with a set of keys kind of a thing going on here. So I think that if that were to start to occur, I think that, we would rally. And I think that would be very challenging for someone, because we're so protective of the reputation inside of our industry and how we show up to the general public.
Fantastic. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Milton. Did you want to add something there, Milton? Yeah.
I'm just saying, want to talk about staff, and I don't know if you want to talk about it now or at some other time, but I have a few things.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I'll just run the sponsor ad, and then we can talk about that. Then we'll talk a little bit about the challenges during COVID, and after that. But yeah, bear with me, Milton. I'll just run this ad. I guess I should have. Warned Milton. There's no time to go.
And he's out. He's out.
I'm back.
It's like in the old. It's like in the old days. The adverts come on television, and it's time to make a cup of tea. Good grief. But welcome back. So yeah.
You told me not to touch the camera.
You would. Yeah, that's true. You were going to be talking about staff, so we'll talk about that. And then if we can go on, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on whether you've got calls lined up. And it's early on in the day there, so you probably have. Then we'll probably need to push it so that we'll finish on time. So Milton, over to you to talk about staff.
We've got three business owners here today, but 2 guests who are business owners. We've talked about our principles, we've talked about our standards, but we can't achieve anything without acting through and with our staff and the people who we work with. I call them my colleagues. They are my colleagues. They tell me what to do. I typically obey. And because they're on the ground, they know what they're doing. Usually, and I listen carefully. So what I want to do is say that without people, through the extent of a business, who express and carry out the same principles, and have the same values that we're talking about, we're not going to be successful. And so when we do have those people, we need to trust them. We need to treat them well. I haven't used the word love yet today. I'm sorry. I'm a big person. I'm a big believer in loving your clients, loving your staff, of course, loving Wendy, and I really need us. I believe that we need to continue to value the people who work with us as treasures, who express our greatest wishes, our principles. The details are always important, but I think that's the principle. How we do it, everybody is different, every company is different. I want to just say that my working principle is, the first is to carefully hire. I got a lot of advice from a professional hiring counselor, a professional in the business, who helped me do much better at hiring. And I urge people to use professionals to learn how to hire better. The second thing is, and I'll try to move quickly here. Second is to recognize good moves, good behavior, good actions. I once bonused somebody who was working for me, customer service manager, for breaking our corporate rules to help a guest. For me, that was the perfect example of what you have to do to help to relate to the needs of the guest. And I believe in financial bonuses. I mean, money matters in all of this. And I believe in praise, lots of it when appropriate, in addition to the corrections and course straightening. I think that the people who work for us are treasures. So I know I'm getting all deep and serious, and I don't expect everybody to break out crying in sympathy, but if without that kind of thinking, I wouldn't have a company. Without the people who work for me, I wouldn't have a company. That's all.
So I agree with you, Milton. The strongest partnership that we have here at LivinLocal is our people. I mean, there is no difference between how we treat our colleagues, our fellow foot soldiers, than those that we have the opportunity to host and accommodate. I think the biggest challenge for us here is finding those people. I mean, and at every level. So if anybody out there is looking for work, call me. We are desperate here for in terms of labor shortages. That's everything from housekeeping, especially where you have, those are your front line. That's the brand right there. So having from housekeeping to sales to operations and I think that this is something that's true all over, from as I understand it, it's trying to find those people who are talented, those people who are passionate, those people that are performers, that are all of those people that you want to love and adore. Milton's full. I need help. He's got lots of love to give. I just got cash. And we would really appreciate it. Like I said, I think that's a big problem coming out of this COVID situation, is that there is just such a labor shortage. And combine that with a huge demand for accommodation, it's made things very interesting around here. And
it's spot on, and it's just like that in the UK. We are, well, in all sectors, but in haulage. So we're short of 100,000 lorry drivers right now. Means we're not going to get our turkey and Christmas pudding at Christmas. It means it means that the supermarkets won't be stocked as they should be at Christmas time. It's just crazy. But I put Rebecca's post on there because you mentioned about staff and Rebecca, I think it's okay for me to say, because we mentioned it on Clubhouse yesterday, that she's just launched a recruitment. What's happened to Milton? He's gone. So he's just launched a recruitment service. Yeah. Where's Milton gone?
Yeah.
Okay. Whilst Milton is here he comes. Just a minute. Whilst Milton is away, we'll run through some of the other comments here. We'll come back actually to that one, David. Sarah. Here we go.
Hello.
Sarah says, Mike's, hi.
You're like the Scarlet
Mike
Pimpernel now. You know what I mean? You're here, you're there, where'd he go? It's like, where's Milton?
Yeah.
Don't do that again. So Sarah saying, Stapley, corporates also need to know there's a difference and be aware that you get what you pay for. That's the comment between the kind of service department sector and the kind of Airbnbs. And Mike responds, absolutely agree. There was a question here from David Gervey. And David, post your, if you're still on the call, then post your company name. David, can you comment on the balance between rates and maximizing profitability? So are rates everything? That's, I think, is really the question there.
I need to.
So is this your 400-pound dead press guy, Milton? Is that who this is?
Deadlift. Yes, David.
Yeah.
David,
yeah. Hi, David.
Don't mess with David. Listen, can I give you some old wisdom from my father? My father said, when people are calling you, the price is going up. And when you are calling people, the price is going down. Okay. And the maximizing profitability can be done when people are calling you. And you're keeping your rates down is what happens when you're calling people. So this is a complete function of the market. Plus, I don't know how to say this nicely. You do not want to harm the relationship between a regular long-term client, and we've talked about this before, Wendy and I. You've got to get your rates up to regular market levels, but at the same time, you cannot upset a long-term relationship.
So this is where you and I disagree, right?
Yes.
We've been through this a ton of times. And I think people are certainly entitled to deploy whatever strategy they think works best for them in their market. The reality is that our costs as an operator, we're a commoditized environment. So tick that box. As a commodity, you have to do, as Milton suggested, you have to certainly have the opportunity to rise with the tide. Selling product, as we've seen here in Vancouver, certainly during COVID, at a price point that is, there comes a point where you have your cost, you have your margin. So you either shed inventory, maintain your margin, maintain your price point, because battling all the way down is a fool's game. Fortunately, we also have that opportunity inside of the lack of inventory to deploy a different strategy as it comes to pricing. And whilst I've had conversations with people that are along the lines of, well, we get to make that money back. There's no such thing as making money back. It's you're either making money or you're not making money. In this business, our margins are small. And they get smaller all the time. It's only size that really matters in terms of whether or not you can be profitable. It takes a certain amount of staff. It takes a certain amount of energy, of soft goods, of costs and labor and materials. There are thresholds. Once you achieve those thresholds, you have the opportunity to look at becoming more profitable. But I would disagree, and I know Milton and I had a very long conversation during COVID about this, is, how to best, we will never chase people down. We will never be the lowest cost provider in Vancouver. We cannot do that and deliver on our brand level of service. It's impossible. We are a very, very service-orientated business. I think as an industry, that is one of the biggest differentiators in terms of this accommodation sector. And so it costs money to deliver those things. And I think that it's not about so much about price as it is about educating the client and saying, here's what we are bringing. If I'm going to buy a car, there's all kinds of different cars I can buy. They all have 4 wheels. They all have a steering wheel and a windshield. So if I would like to have a more of a comfortable ride, if I want to make sure that there are various safety mechanisms in place, I'm going to pay for those types of things. So I think that it's about education and not about necessarily when the market is soft. I think you just have to be more aggressive in terms of going out there, utilizing those associations so that you can get the word out that, hey, I'm here. And leveraging on those partnerships and those relationships that you've built in perhaps in the busier times.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I just have a harder time raising rates than you do. It's
okay. Good. I'm glad there's no disagreement.
Pure psychology. It is. Yes.
You mentioned there about COVID, and so I'm mindful of the time, and I don't want to impinge on your daily schedule. So I'll try and I'll be as quick as I can. So, any comments on COVID and how that affected your business? I know it's just one. We could talk for hours, but about COVID, and if we finish off with some advice to the viewers on what advice you might give to people coming into the sector, assuming that they don't know anything. If you have any advice, business advice for them. But COVID, how did that affect you, Milton? If we can start with you, please.
Okay, I'm glad I got a chance to speak before Wendy puts her stamp on it, because Wendy is always right. It's true. The way it goes is like this. At a certain point at the very beginning of COVID, I got the message, okay? And the message was, we're going into a catastrophe, and I'm going to have to deal with it. As what a 3-alarm fire, a 5-alarm fire, whatever it was. I did 3 things. I dropped my rates 40%. I sent a note to every company and person who ever stayed with us saying, hey, we're here, we're in business, and I tripled my marketing budget. And that worked to a certain extent. And then when it stopped working, I asked Wendy what to do, and she told me. And I'm not kidding. Wendy was a tremendous counselor at this time, and I got more business from following Wendy's advice, and that was a tremendous success. I remained full-ish throughout the pandemic, throughout the pandemic shutdowns, but at a close to break-even level. I'm not going to say in public how much I lost and what I consider as a break even, because some people will have a heart attack, but it was nearly a break even. Okay, coming back out of COVID is just as big a challenge. We're flat out full. The walls are bursting. Half my business is with people who came in during COVID, who are my ideal long-term customers. They have a business head office within a few minutes of my building. And how can I raise? Okay, so that's my COVID problem, just reaching back. But it was a great deal of suffering. Everybody got through it, and I'm most incredibly grateful for the people I work with, who understood that there weren't going to be any bonuses, that we were going to keep the lights on, and we were going to do our best. And also, we're going to stay healthy. I forgot to talk about that. We went nuts cleaning, absolutely nuts. Nobody allowed in the building. Deliveries to the door only. No guests, no family members, no friends. I mean, it was the opposite of a nice, hospitable person, but no, in our place, nobody got sick. Nobody got sick. Our staff was healthy, and they've had 2 shots, and nobody got sick, even those people who were isolating. So my comment on COVID is we got through it, and I hope it never happens again.
Yeah, here on that one. So our COVID sort of story is a little different, I think, to a certain extent, although it was absolutely terrifying, opening a new business and putting yourself out there. Thank God for Mike Stern, you who wrote the checks. And I would say that it did allow us to be a lot more flexible and agile, because we were a really small team trying to do really great things. And it occurred to us very, very quickly that we're going to be in big trouble if we didn't figure out how to fill apartments and what to do. And imagine, if you will, as most of you can, is it wasn't just about businesses evaporating out of these office structures and all of that kind of stuff, but it was also accounting departments. So going into this, what was going to be a 2-week shutdown, the borders might close. Surely that's never going to happen. It wasn't just the fact that business turned off, but all of a sudden these corporate head offices and their accounting departments, evaporated. They're not geared like a salesperson or perhaps a field worker to dispatch from a home. So the cash flow was really terrifying, because all of a sudden we went from net 30, we were saying net 60, net 120. Like it was, so it occurred to us really quickly that we would have to find a client that wants to move in right now, pay up front, and then figure out, how to create cash flow. And we were really fortunate, because before they were called essential workers or frontline workers, my mom actually is a retired OR nurse. And the idea came when she and I were having a conversation. I was like, hey, is my bedroom still available? Because I might need it. Kidding. But it was inside of that conversation when she said, I'm so glad that I'm no longer a nurse during these times. I said, well, how can that be, right? Surely you would want to be there and participating. And she was, heck no. She's like, I couldn't imagine going to that kind of environment and then taking the chance of bringing that sort of that virus home to you and your sister and our family. And it was in that moment that I thought, this is a brilliant idea. Like how do we do what we want to do? How do we participate? How do we be giving members of our society, and what do we do? So we started phoning, and we ended up getting the right people. It wasn't phoning the hospitals who were overwhelmed. We ended up getting the right stream to that to be able to not only educate but offer our services. And we then filled at LivinLocal, and we were then got to continue inside of our purpose of helping others and supporting others in the community. So we then got on the phone and we talked to folks like Milton and various other companies across Canada. And then we took that knowledge base and we phoned every person that we knew that we had worked with in the US, in Australia, in the UK, in all these different continents, and said, like, look at, this is where we've been successful. In order for us to survive, it's one for all for one. And we were able to place, almost 500 essential workers, whether that was nurses, doctors, paramedics, firefighters, or policemen. And because of that program, we shared all of our documents, so all of our letters of introduction, how we were doing it, what we needed to do, what we offered. And so we were able to not only just help our fellow industry members, but also the community at large. And by sharing what we were successful at and offering the opportunity to quickly mimic that information, where we were successful, what letters worked, what calls, who do we call, at what level, in what organizations did we have to dispel that information. And so we got to do some really cool things, and we got to help some really amazing people and see some really unbelievable stories. And when you are checking in essential workers and and ER staff that are literally walking, and you're not talking to them because you're chucking keys across the street in a Ziploc bag, right? Because we don't know what the heck's going on. And just the tears and the gratitude and the appreciation for those people that were keeping my family safe. Yeah, it was really something. And I, like Milton, hope that we never are faced with that situation again. But I also believe that our industry does service the catastrophes, the floods, the fires, the this, the
Yes.
that. So it's just although it's a much bigger iteration, it was still inside of what we do. It's not always, hey, I'm moving here because I got a job. And, you know, I want a nice place to live while I go out and buy a house. You know, a big part of our business here and across the country is inside of helping people who've been displaced.
I'd just like to add one of the most wonderful aspects of our dealing with catastrophes is the psychological help that we provide to our guests simply by being kind. Alberta, for unknown reasons, has had some amazing recent catastrophes. We've had fires, we've had floods, when people come with a few little possessions that they've managed to take with them, and they've left everything behind and run in the night because the flames were licking at the city. I'm thinking of the fire in Fort McMurray, for example. And you get a chance to be a real host. Our business is guest and host. We are hosts, and we do a wonderful job when we're doing a good job of making people feel at home under every possible circumstance. So I just want to add that, and not to take away in any way from Wendy's astounding leadership of the industry during this rough time by sharing successful strategies.
Very kind. Thank you, both of you, Wendy and Milton. So Raj is asking, and by the way, this is in the context perhaps. So AV Quest do a lot of data analytics on getting the prices right, really. So in the context of that, isn't keeping the rates at the correct level more about understanding the competition and not competing with the people who don't deliver the same product? You probably an example of that. You won't need an example, but I'll give an example anyway. You know, like when you have rate comparison software, and rates are going down in the property down the road, you assume that you need to chase those rates down, but there might be a very good reason for those rates going down. They may be refurbishing or something. That's one example, but just generally competing with a product that isn't the same. Does anybody have any comments on that, please?
Well, I think that Raj hit the nail on the head. I mean, you know, and this is sort of a you know, what we do here is we look and we say, look, you know, not all things are created equal. Not all accommodations are the same. You know, I don't have a 1-bedroom rate for that, you know, because I have 1-bedrooms that are, you know, 560 square feet. I have 1,100 square foot 1-bedrooms. But to Raj's point, it's really, you got to know what your competition. I mean, you got to be aware that, you know, we can't just go through with blinders on. But it's about knowing what your difference. It doesn't matter if you're selling apartments, if you're selling cars, you're selling widgets or dooflickies. I mean, you have to know what it is that you bring to the table, and then looking to be with the people that are looking for, find that client that is looking for that offering, as opposed to thinking that you're going to be all things to all people. Because, you know, to Raj's point, you have to understand, but you're not competing. We don't feel that we compete with every service department or corporate housing entity in Vancouver. There are dramatically different models, and there are dramatically different operators. And I think that, you know, it's the same thing. Why would you pay X dollars for the Shangri-La and, you know, and a different number for the Holiday Inn, you know, like Express? So you're going to offer different services. You're going to have different content. You're going to have, you know, either a more robust or less robust you know, furnishing package, and pricing should be in accordance with what you're delivering.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Milton, you agree with that? I take it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's very disconcerting. Very disconcerting. You're both in agreement.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible. And also, there's nothing worse than just saying yes. I get a 5-line, 10-line discussion of what somebody needs in my company, and they say, I think we should do this. And instead of going blah, 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 I just write back, yes. And so apparently I am famous inside the company for writing yes and no.
You've just done it again. Okay, well, we probably need to close. A couple of things, really. The first is in kind of 15 to 30 seconds. Would you have any advice on people coming into the sector? So, Wendy, would you like to kick off on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, the one great thing about this sector is that we share, and I don't think that I'm alone as kind as Milton has been. I think that's inherent in our industry. I think you have to care, and caring manifests itself in different ways. So if you're looking at being involved in the industry, you know, ask questions, go to events, join in the association, call us. You know, we believe that competition is healthy. There is more than enough to go around in terms of, you know, but if you're going to get in this business and you're going to call yourself a corporate housing or service department provider, we'd like for you very much to make sure that you understand what that looks like and what's involved. So if we can help, happy to do so. It is not for the faint of heart. The glamorous 10 to 14 hours a day, the schlepping of, you know, soft goods, the broken nails, the tears, you know, sometimes we feel like we're sponsored by, Kleenex over here, but it's, it is hard work, but it pays off. And if you're a people person, and if you are passionate about hospitality and caring for other people, there's no better industry to be in.
I second that, and I would like to add a unpaid commercial for the Corporate Housing Providers Association, if you're in Canada and the US. In a different life, I was an executive director of a trade association, and I saw the difference between people who used the association to grow, to learn, to associate, and those who didn't. And the CHPA is full of people like us who share, and it's not inexpensive to join, but it's a value proposition. It's worth so much to be a member of the CHPA. And anybody getting into the business, the first thing I would do is write a check to the CHPA.
Right. Great. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Milton. So Veronica's just posted. Thank you, Wendy and Milton, for sharing insights from Canada. Richard, thank you for another valuable Blue Room. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you. Mike, interesting webinar. Thanks, Richard. Would love to have been live in the thick of classic revenue management, RevPAR, marketplace, supply and demand, loyal client discussion. Yeah, that's right. There's just so much to talk about, really. Maybe on another occasion, though. But yeah, thanks, Mike. So whilst I'm finding the outro video, is there anything that anybody that we've not covered that you particularly wanted to mention?
Yeah, sorry. I just like to say thank you for the opportunity, Richard. It was really, it's always great to spend some time with my good friend Milton. It was great today. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for tuning in. But Richard, really, thanks again for the opportunity. Always nice to spend time with you.
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you.
Richard.
That's enough. That's okay.
Richard, this really was wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, the thanks are coming right back to both of you, Wendy and Milton. So thank you very much for sparing the time, busy time, valuable time. So I very, very much value that. And so thank you very much indeed. Thank you also to the viewers this afternoon live, and to those who view on the recording. So I'm going to be playing the outro video now. And I hope that it doesn't break up. Then I recommend, Wendy, Milton, that you then leave the studio unless you want to be left on the screen, looking at the screen when the outro video disappears, because that's sometimes the experience. Okay, so thank you. We'll give yeah. Okay, I'll see you, Milton.